and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Brian and Drew and Lou. Good to have you guys. If you're new to the podcast, we talk about Taoist philosophy as it relates to our recovery. We talk about how this is one of those things that either click with you or does not. It seems that there's no in between. When I first read the first verse of the Tao Te Ching, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, I thought, wow, that makes sense to me. That really resonates. So I started looking a little more and a little further and realized that this is a view of the higher power that goes a long way in describing how it really seems for me. And we all find that or we wouldn't be here. So that's what we talk about, how it relates to our recovery, how when I came into recovery, I saw those steps on the wall, which are really led to my spiritual awakening and my continued awakening. We never arrive, I don't think. And I saw God, and I skipped it because I was like, oh, I got God figured out. I had a really good, I had a good belief in God. I went to church. I actually believe I had what we would call a relationship with God, very sincere. But I found when I came in that my relationship with God was not helping me get sober. No matter how much I prayed for this to be relieved, it was never relieved. I just kept getting circumstances that kept pointing me towards surrender, really. And it took 5 years to realize that God does not help me with anything. I have to step out of the way and allow. So whatever your conception, perception of God is, just set that aside. Don't worry about trying to figure that out, because after 17 years sober, over time, I have learned to let go of asking why or asking how, because I realized that wasn't my part. Ultimately, my part is allowing, being available, being present, and that the presence only comes from me learning to live compassionately instead of fearfully. So lay all that argument aside and just open your heart and just ask yourself, how can I be helpful right now to whoever's in my path? Maybe even just say out loud, I want to get sober. I want blank, whatever it is that's really, that you're resisting. And I'm available and I'm open. I will see. I will notice. And it's that we notice what's already moving. It's not that we create something or make something happen. It's already going on. I was listening to Michael Singer this week on his podcast, which I would highly recommend. And he mentioned what the will of God was, and I'd never heard the will of God framed in this way. He said, if we believe everything is as it should be, what are we praying for when we pray for the will of God? Is there anything that needs to change in this moment? Or are we just praying to ultimately accept what is, as it is right now? If things are as they should be, that would be the will of God. I don't know. I'm still sitting with that one. That's been on my mind since I heard that this week. He's got an excellent podcast. I would highly recommend it. He talks about the Tao a good bit too, and refers to AA a good bit. Most of the time, I'm in agreement. Sometimes not, but most of the time I am. That shouldn't that shouldn't mean you guys listen or not based on what I think. Oh my God. Okay. Let's get on with the podcast. I do want to talk about a resource at Buddy C I talk about a resource every week. Actually, the resource I've been mentioning, which I'm going to mention again, and it has to do with the synchronistic moment, is sobermeditations.org. I've mentioned it a number of times, but I'm going to talk about it in our synchronistic moment too. You used to could, if you've got the app on your phone, you should still be able to access everything. But if you go to the Apple Store and try to download it, it'll download, but it won't open, and it's going to phase out. And I'm going to work today on getting it off of Apple actually, so that people don't have that experience. This happened in October. I got an email from my provider, said, "Hey, we're no longer doing apps. Your app will be discontinued in a month." Of course, I'm like, what am I going to do? Okay. So instead of getting pissed off and sending them a nasty email, I started looking around, got prices on a few things. Everything was expensive, like anywhere from $80 a month to a couple of $100 a month. And this is free, and I really didn't want to spend that kind of money, plus take everything and move it over. It's been an incredible amount of work. And had about, I think, 1,200 active members that were active in the app, which is great for something that I'd really never promoted except on here and on a couple of other sites where it was listed. Getting about 2,400 downloads a month seemed to be pretty consistent, which is for a meditation app that's not out there really. I was just amazed. A lot of people were using it. I'd get texts from friends that said, "Hey, I heard your Sober Meditations app mentioned in the announcements in the meeting I'm at." People talking about how they use it. I'm like, wow, never would have thought any of that. So my thinking was, gosh, I want this to be available, but I just don't know what to do with it. So okay, I'm open. I'll wait, pause, and I was confident something was going to show up because it was being used. So my thoughts were it needed to be used more. I had contacted one of the bigger meditation apps out there about starting a sober category. They weren't interested. I just, we'll see what happens. So an old sponsee of mine, Shane R., that does that Sober Guy podcast, he texted me and said that he was coming to speak at a conference in Orlando. And oh, by the way, I'm in Ormond Beach until February 3rd. This is 2026. If any of you guys are in the area, would like to get together for a cup of coffee, let me know. Any listeners we have, email me at info@buddyc.org. And I said, okay, maybe I can come over for a day. And it's an hour and a half drive from here. So he got me in the conference was where I could get in. So I drove over, and he said, "I got a seat for you." And there's a room about 60 people with about 15 little round tables around. So we went in, sat down, and our table had 5 or 6 people. And I got to talking to the lady beside me. Okay, no, just everybody sits where they want to sit. And she happens to work she's there for product development for a sober app. I'm not going to mention which one. It's been active for 7 years and has over 1 million people that use it around the world. So we're meeting this week, and she said, "You're exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for ways to enhance our app." And so we're meeting this week to see. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but it's definitely an opportunity. We'll see. So I'll make that announcement I've checked them out and they seem to be real legit. A non-membership was my criteria. You cannot charge people for getting this information. So they have some other, their income plan, for their income's different than that. They're not going to do memberships. So we'll see. But what's the chances of that's just, I don't even think about it now. How, why, what? It was placed in front of me, so we're going to see. How much effort did that take on my part? I had to drive over and I was going to support Shane and spend some time with him. I sponsored him for a number of years and met him only once, and that was just for a dinner in Nashville that he was in town for. So first time we got to hang out, go to a meeting together, just really was nice, was real good. And she just happened to be sitting beside me. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So we'll just see. We will see. And if it doesn't work, what seems to happen, I hate to use the word, I start attracting. It's like a magnet. When I open myself up for something like that, different people and different opportunities come. Will this work? I don't know. But if not, something else will come along. But I'm open to it. So it starts coming my way. There's something to that. I don't know if I'll ever have that part or a real understanding of that. I just accept it when it happens. It's okay. It's like what the Taoist farmer, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. If I'm not open to it, then if I was pissed off at Shane because one day he said, I'm going another direction, I don't want to be your sponsee anymore. If I'd have got pissed off and held a resentment, I would have never been over there. And I actually did the opposite when that happened. When everybody grows and things change and evolve. So we'll see where that takes us. Hopefully I'll have an announcement for you in a few weeks. Who knows? All right, our story today. Symphony for a Seabird, page 103 and 104, out of Thomas Merton's interpretation of the Chuang Tzu. Drew, you reading for us today?
I am. Symphony for a Seabird. You cannot put a big load in a small bag, nor can you, with a short rope, draw water from a deep well. You cannot talk to a power politician as if he were a wise man. If he seeks to understand you, if he looks inside himself to find the truth you have told him, he cannot find it there. Not finding, he doubts. When a man doubts, he will kill. Have you not heard how a bird from the sea was blown inshore and landed outside the capital of Lu? The prince offered a solemn reception, offered the seabird wine in the sacred precinct, called for musicians to play the compositions of Shun, slaughtered cattle to nourish it. Dazed with symphonies, the unhappy seabird died of despair. How should you treat a bird? As yourself or as a bird? Ought not a bird to nest in deep woodland or fly over meadow and marsh? Ought it not to swim on river and pond, feed on eels and fish, fly in formation with other waterfowl, and rest in the reeds? Bad enough for a seabird to be surrounded by men and frightened by their voices. That was not enough. They killed it with music. Play all the symphonies you like on the marshlands of Thong Ting. The birds will fly away in all directions. The animals will hide. The fish will dive to the bottom. But men will gather around to listen. Water is for fish and air for men. Natures differ and needs with them. Hence, the wise men of old did not lay down one measure for all.
Thank you, Drew. Any comments before we go back to the beginning and discuss this? Lou?
But it sounds very much like what you were just talking about with the former sponsee. Things change, people move on. There's not one right answer for it. Not one person that has all the answers.
And I did not read this story beforehand and I need to tell a story about Shane no. That's good. Thank you, Lou. All right, let's start from the beginning. You cannot put a big load in a small bag, nor can you, with a short rope, draw water from a deep well. You cannot talk to a power politician as if he were a wise man. If he seeks to understand you, if he looks inside himself to find the truth you have told him, he cannot find it there. Not finding he doubts. When a man doubts, he will kill.
Buddy, what I get from that is, especially the first few lines, is you've got to understand the situation before you can act, rather than bringing what you think is right to the situation and then getting frustrated, getting upset, rolling up your sleeves, trying to force things. You've got to get out of your own way.
And I'm thinking like applied to sponsorship. And you could apply it both directions too. I quit trying to change sponsees, like change their behavior. If you've ever sponsored anyone, you can see how you would like for them to do some things differently. But I learned to make suggestions from my experience, not attempt to change them. There's a difference. My job as a sponsor is not to change someone, nor is it to keep them sober. My job is not to keep them sober. My job is to show them how I did it. It's not, okay, now if we work these steps, your life will change. No, I worked the steps and my life changed. Maybe it'll work for you. I don't know. That's totally different. And it takes a lot of the ego out because I was told that if I take that approach, I don't have to take the responsibility if they get drunk and the blame, nor the credit and the praise if they stay sober. Anytime I've tried to change someone, it's been to their or my or both of our detriments. It's never worked. And that goes back for me to, if I'm picking a sponsor, do they have what I want? Can what they have draw water from the deep well, in other words? And that takes some conversations. That takes, because a lot of people who sound really great in a meeting may not necessarily have the sobriety you're really looking for, because you're not looking for someone who sounds great in a meeting. You're looking for someone who has the walk that you want. So what do you do if you're looking for a sponsor? Well, first thing I do is, and this is what I suggest, approach from a place of powerlessness. Surrender your need for a sponsor. I'm powerless over finding the sponsor I need at this time. I am open. I am available. And go where sponsors would be. You can't sit at home and wait for your sponsor to knock on the door. You go to meetings. Go to more meetings. And you will stumble over your sponsors, what I have found. When you let go of trying to find them and just go where you're being pushed, go to meet. Okay, I'll go to meetings until, and you can allow a meeting to be your sponsor for a little while. And we all see that at meetings. I can tell when someone shares whether they have a sponsor or not. And my first sponsor told me, he says, hey, you've got to have patience with people who don't have sponsors. It takes time to find one, but you have one. So you don't need to be sharing any personal stuff in a meeting. They have nothing that you have right now. They don't need anything you have. You need to listen and bring all that mess to me. He said it a little stronger than that. But so that's one of the first things that we can start learning to live powerlessly about is finding a sponsor. And there's never been anyone I've made that suggestion to, and that comes up a lot online. And that's the suggestion I always make. And I don't recall ever hearing someone that I followed up with that was in a meeting that I was in later that their sponsor, that they did not stumble all over their sponsor. And sponsors are there for a season too. Don't be afraid to move to another sponsor if your sponsor is no longer working for you. And it happens at times. Sometimes you feel stuck spiritually or just whatever the case. I think different sponsors come at different phases of sobriety. Very few people I know have the same sponsor they started with if they've been sober for a lengthy amount of time. I personally I'm on my fourth sponsor over 21 years. My first sponsor stayed with me the 5 years I was in and out and moved a year after, right after my 1 year, he moved. So at that time, I was still doing everything locally. So I got another sponsor, stayed with him for a few years, realized he sounded great in meetings. I don't know if he ever worked the steps, just quite honestly. I was getting nothing. The relationship was not conducive. So I left. him and went to another guy at the time I needed. It's just the same thing. If you guys have any experience with being a sponsee or sponsoring, please chime in if this is applicable. But I quit trying to change people. And if it's someone not in, and another question I can ask myself, whether, let's say this is not a sponsee sponsor relationship, let's say it's a family member or someone outside of recovery, even in a work environment, what I have found is how can I get compassion into this situation or this relationship? How can I be helpful? That's all you got to do. You don't have to do any overt thing. It's like I mentioned a few weeks ago on holidays. If you started getting squirrely, get up and just start cleaning the table. Go play with the kids or leave if you need to. Living compassionately is much simpler than what we make it. Drew?
Yeah, just on the topic of accepting that you might need to move on from one person to another. I've had the same therapist for several years and suffered a loss in the family last week. And I really wanted to talk with her about it. So I emailed her scheduler and tried to set up an appointment. And the scheduler emailed back and said, yeah, sorry, therapist isn't providing therapy services anymore. We wish you the best of luck. Yeah, it's hard not to take that personally.
Here's the number to suicide hotline in case you need
exactly.
it. Right?
Yeah, and I'm glad I wasn't seeing her for abandonment issues or something. That would have. But it was a little tough, but I realized this isn't personal, and if it is, and her scheduler lied about it, whatever, that's fine. So I started thinking about who can I see, and good news, bad news. I'm in a city of millions, so there are hundreds, if not thousands, of therapists. And what's that phrase? The paradox of choice. When you have so many choices to choose from, that can be more distressing than only having one option or two options. But my sobriety group in my neighborhood meets on Sunday mornings. I've been going there, and we meet in a counseling center. It used to be a house. We're in an old neighborhood, and a lot of 1,500 square foot houses have been turned into little businesses. And this business is, counselors have their separate rooms, and that's where we meet on Sundays. And the owner of the business is a counselor. She's in the neighborhood, and she comes to our meetings sometimes. She does the meditations with us. And she and I've chatted a little bit, not a whole lot. But I looked at her About Me page on her therapy website, and she checks all the boxes that I would want in a therapist, including accepting my insurance, which is the most important box of all sometimes. So I called her and chatted with her and think that we'll be a good fit. Got an appointment with her. And honestly, I think she'll probably be a better fit than the therapist I've had for the last few years. That's just got some bad news, accepted it, looked at what are my options, and I think this new relationship might be even better than my most recent one.
Thank you, Drew. We just open our eyes to possibilities because that's all you had to do, right?
Yeah. I could have just stewed all week about it and been upset and
taking it personally.
Yeah. Things change, people change, situations change.
So the will of God for you in that moment was just to accept the moment as it was.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah. And it does remind me of the story you told at the very beginning about you just going out and meeting people. I think that's just so important. If I hadn't gone to that meeting in our neighborhood, and continued to go there, I never would have met this therapist. And I also wouldn't have met all the people in my neighborhood who are also in a similar situation to me. And we've gotten to know each other pretty well. My old habit was just stay at home by myself, really. Or if I went out and connected with people, it was people who weren't good for me, people who would only, who were addicts like me. Changing how I interact with the world, going out and meeting people. And for a lifelong introvert like me, that's tough, but it with more opportunities and more experience, it's definitely easier to just go out there and be yourself in the world.
Going to a meeting, Drew, at times for me, it's a form of listening, because if I'm listening to others, that would be listening to the higher power.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just in a time of meditation that I'm listening. Thank you. All right, we'll proceed. Have you not heard how a bird from the sea was blown inshore and landed outside the capital of Lu? The prince ordered a solemn reception, offered the seabird wine in a sacred precinct, called for musicians to play, slaughtered cattle for the bird. Okay. Dazed, the unhappy seabird died in despair. He was trying to honor the bird, and what did he do? He killed it. He did not take a moment. You can interpret it this way, or this way I interpret that. He didn't take a moment to ask himself what the bird needed or the bird wanted. He did what he wanted to do for the bird. That is such a part of sponsorship. Just listening, what do they need? How can I love them right now? How can I help them? Not, okay, here's all the stuff I want you to do. This is our schedule for the next 2 months, without talking with them at all without listening. That's about listening. That's the first thing I try to do with a new sponsee. One of my first questions is, how does God speak to you? How do you connect spiritually? Whatever way that is. Some is walking. Some they read devotions, AA-related devotions. It could be all kinds of things, different ways that they connect. And I try to just start there. Then I ask, how do you see the higher power? Are you coming from a Christian background? Are you an atheist and we need to start there? What are you agnostic, which means you don't believe God can be proved or not? What's your background? And because what I want to do is remove the blocks that I had. I know the blocks I had. So if they say Christian background, I've got a whole list of how the steps are seen in the New Testament that I wrote. And I'd be happy to send you guys, if you want, info@buddyc.org. I'd be happy to send you what I use. But all the steps are seen throughout the New Testament. So I start there with them. I can speak their God language. Now, if they came from let's say they were Muslim, I don't have any experience there. I may need to hand that person off to someone else just because that is not my experience. I don't know. Could be not, but I've always got to be open to, does what my sponsee need match my experience? If it doesn't, I ask that someone else be brought, and I'd be happy to be a temporary sponsor until that person shows themselves. Drew?
Yeah, and one way I'm looking at this passage is how to apply it to my life is, am I also treating myself like how the prince treated the bird? Am I looking at what makes other people happy and trying to apply that to myself, knowing that's not for me, knowing how I need to treat myself, knowing what's good for me, knowing what's bad for me? When I live in that way, more, when I make those good habits part of my life and get rid of the bad habits. And when I say good habits and bad habits, I mean for me specifically, when I can increase the good ones, decrease the bad ones, and not try to live how I see other people live in ways that I know are not for me. But I think it is really helpful to see people who are living a good life and watching what they do and trying to find some common traits and behaviors and things that people share who are doing well. But at the same time, knowing things that aren't good for me and trying to shoehorn those into my life, that always leads me to being less.
Thank you, Drew. Lou?
Drew's talking about has me thinking about coming into Al-Anon, my 12-step program, and how to take a look at the story. I didn't have a long enough rope to reach the deep stuff, but I saw people there who had the long rope, who had traveled that journey to get that long rope. So that gave me hope. But I didn't even realize I had too short of a rope when I came in. I thought I just wasn't using my rope the right way or something. I had lots of confidence in my things that weren't working.
We just don't know what we don't know when we come in. I still don't know what I don't know.
But as Drew noted, there are people that have found their way, which gives the hope.
Yes. So now we talk about why the bird died and how we should treat a bird. How should you treat a bird, as yourself or as a bird? That sounds simple, doesn't it? That is not easy. How do I treat a sponsee?
Real quick, that reminds me of people who I've known throughout my life who, when they leave for the day, they leave radio on or TV or something, YouTube, for the dog because they don't want the dog to be bored. That's definitely the person treating the dog as if they were the dog, as if the dog had the same interests, had the same needs that the person has. Personally, I don't think it would be good for a dog to just have constant noise all day long.
Well, you're a cat guy, Drew. You don't know what dogs. You're a cat guy.
I don't know, but it's the people who do that are definitely the ones who they have to have constant stimulation going. They think their dog is the same.
Drew, I know that Rex likes British murder mysteries. So I put on one of those channels that play all the time while I'm gone so he can enjoy it. Or doggy daycare. He loves doggy daycare.
Yeah.
So I'm just messing. But he seems to like it. I don't know. But you're right. Can you if you're going to leave something, why don't you leave something they like? You would think they would like, not
Sports
just
talk radio.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Ought not a bird to nest in deep woodland or fly over meadow and marsh? Ought it not swim on river and pond, feed on eels and fish, fly in formation? Talking about all the different ways that a bird lives. Bad enough for a seabird to be surrounded by men and frightened by their voices. They killed it with music. Play all the symphonies you like. Birds will fly away. All directions. Animals will hide. Fish dive deep. But men gather to listen. That might have a little more. I don't know. Any ideas on that part about talking about fish have their nature, but the things we do thinking it's for the fish gather men? I need to sit with that one. I don't know if there may be more there. As there's with everything. Yeah, no, we figure it out completely and totally every week, right? Yeah.
I just look at it as what's good for one group isn't good for everybody.
Yeah, I could see that. Thank you, Drew.
There's no universal one right way to do everything for everybody. Can't please can't please all the people all the time, much less all the different species all the time.
Buddy, one thing that's coming up for me is you were talking about like the sponsor-sponsee relationship, and sometimes you get people that aren't a good fit, and maybe they're not a good fit, or maybe I need to learn something from them. Yeah. It seems like for me, I guess I can be rigorously honest. You run across that person that you don't know, but they just irk you.
Yeah.
And the moment you develop that irk, there's this gravitational pull. Sooner or later, you're going to get that call. I heard something you say that really stuck with me, and I need a sponsor.
My phone's breaking up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
We get what we need too. That brings up another thing, Brian, that we learn so much from our sponsees.
yeah, absolutely.
I never worked the steps as hard as I did before I took my first sponsee through the steps. When the teacher's really ready, the student appears. Or the other thing of that is when the student's ready, the student appears too. You can say it that way.
Yeah.
Because we're both the student and the teacher in that regard. Not teacher, so to speak, but in that, with that saying.
And I think in so many instances of my life, when I've been ready to be the student, ready to learn, ready to get a mentor, ready to grow in my life in one way or another, professionally, personally, when I am ready to be a student, the teacher will appear.
Yeah, it's the student that draws the teacher, Drew. It's not the teacher that draws the student. When you're ready, like you said, the teacher appears. When we're open, we're able to notice and it comes to us, floats our direction. I recently had a sponsee that I had to change my approach a little. In the past, I'd been very dogmatic. We meet once a week. We read a book together. We work through the steps. And if someone didn't want to do that, they just weren't a good fit because no one was going to sit and do nothing. They were going to make some progress or they could go somewhere else. I had a guy that I fired a few years ago, actually, as a sponsee because he wouldn't work through the steps. He'd been sober a while, so it wasn't his first time through. He had been sober a lot longer than I have. So I realized he really needed a friend as well. So I said, okay, at this time, I'm sponsor, but call me the other time and we can chat about whatever you want to. So I opened it up more so than normal because I normally don't try not to cross that line. But in his situation, I thought it was the right thing to do. But used to, I would not have been open to that at all. He asked me again to be a sponsor, and I told him I would. And sure enough, the first book I gave him, he's just dragging ass and not doing it. It's like pulling teeth. So as long as I see him making some progress or that I'm helpful, I'll continue. But I'm having to be a little more open-minded. Would be the way, not to say I'm doing it correctly or not. I don't know. So I told him, I want you to read a page a day in this book. I'm not giving up. I'm not letting go. It's a great little book, by the way. Love is Letting Go of Fear. Japowski. It's based on Course in Miracles. Love is Letting Go of Fear. Really, that book has everything that you need in it spiritually, I believe. Basically, it's saying the whole, how can I get love in the situation? How can I be helpful? All those things that I talk about constantly. Oh, and there is a link for that in the bookstore at buddyseed.org, but there's lots of different versions of it. So make sure you're getting what you want at Amazon. The one I use is at buddyseed.org if you want to get that particular one. Yeah. Being open-minded does not change other than being more open-minded. That's the change. You never close off and say, I got this figured out. You showed me twice, God, I'll take it from there. No, I'm in trouble when I do that. Okay, let's finish this story up. Water is for fish. Air is for men. Natures differ and needs with them. Hence, the wise men of old did not lay down one measure for all. The wise men of old, 2,500 years ago. Lou?
Just reading natures differ and needs with them. And that's the story of the sponsee you're talking about.
Yeah.
What works for some people doesn't work for another. And sometimes what I have to offer isn't what they need, or what I need isn't being offered by. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just a matter of the needs are different.
Exactly. Yeah, Lou, the bird is not incorrect in its nature.
Yeah, because it wasn't delighted by the symphony and the food doesn't mean that it was wrong.
Huh. Yeah. Thank you. That's good. Drew?
I've really had to apply this lesson to myself over the last several years in terms of seeing people who I went to college with or high school with or grad school with, seeing them either in a newsletter or LinkedIn or Facebook or just talking to people, catching up, that they've gotten a big promotion or they've gotten hired by a really prestigious company or something like that. That tends to bring up some envy in me and jealousy and some shame for not working as hard as they did over my adult life. And I have had to consciously recognize this place that my former grad school classmate now works at. I would hate to work there. I would absolutely hate to work there. Good for him, but I know people who've worked there. I know what it's like to work there, and I would hate it. I'm happy where I am. I need to recognize that just because somebody's getting big congratulations for working for a place that lots and lots of people want to work for, that I know myself and I know that's not for me. Good feelings of like being congratulated and recognized, that would last for, I don't know, a day. And then I'd be much more miserable for the rest, for as long as I work there. Just an important lesson I'm trying to apply in my life is recognizing that what a lot of people think of as something to be strived for, I know that's not for me.
Thanks, Drew. The question we could ask, are we in the right environment? Are we a fish trying to live out of the water? Or are we, what analogy you want to put on it, but am I in the proper environment for me?
Am I a bird trying to live in a palace, or am I a bird trying to live in the marshlands and the trees?
Or am I a bird trying to live in water? In recovery, we find that one thing that we're told is that we have to change playmates and playgrounds. And that's true. I have to change the environment that I place myself. Brian?
Just lost what I was thinking about.
I should have got to you quicker. My
Yeah.
apologies.
Yeah.
Or do what I do, make a note of it so you can, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll come to me about midnight. I'll text you.
That's the first thing. And I can't notice that if I'm fighting and struggling and pushing. A lot of what I may be pushing against is an environment that I shouldn't be in.
Buddy, that's what I was thinking about. Was one thing that's been a big part of my spiritual program and my recovery. And I've had several people that have helped give me nudges, is a gratitude list. And that always helps me to realize that I'm where I need to be. I'm where I need to be, and I'm in a pretty darn good place. Matter of fact, I got a sponsee that I picked up, and this guy's in the trucking business. And long story short, I was talking to him about this thing, that comparison of my insides to others' outsides, and wishing things were different. And I've got a company down the street from my business. Guy's got probably 75 brand new dump trucks. And I made the comment to him one day. I said, and I'm not in the trucking business, but I said, I could drive by there and wish I had a fleet of equipment. And he said, man, you don't want to be like that guy. He said he's divorced and his kids hate him. That's exactly what he said to me. And I was like, wow. And it was what I needed to hear.
It's easy to envy someone's outsides, isn't it?
It is. It is. But when I get into that gratitude list, I realize I've got what I need. All of what I need, some of what I want. Yeah. Grass is greener right here.
That's an Irma Bombeck thing. Grass is always greener over the septic tank, and lots of times we think it's really green over there, but really it's over a septic tank.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, Lou.
I read a while ago, scientists proved that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence in terms of the way sunlight comes in. The angle that it comes in, if you're looking off in the distance, it's going to be bouncing at a different angle, and it'll look greener than the grass that's under your feet, even if it's the exact same grass. So there is scientific proof that the grass is greener on the other side.
And then when you get to the other side, Drew, that's not the side you're on, so the grass you were on looks greener than what you're on.
Exactly.
Yeah. The grass you left is all of a sudden greener than the grass you're now on. I've been there in several aspects of my life.
Can never get to the greener grass, can we? Keep looking, keep going, and never get there.
Yeah.
That's good, guys. Anything else with this story before we close? Guys, y'all have a great week, and hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.